A greedy police officer killed a rich man for his gold. He thought nobody would ever find out. But that night, he stayed alone with the dead body. And when he tried to steal the man's rings, the corpse opened its eyes. What happened next became the most terrifying night of his life. For 5 straight days, heavy rain had flooded the small town of Blackwater Falls. Roads had disappeared underwater. Cars were stranded. Entire neighborhoods were close to being swallowed by the flood. Rescue teams worked day and night to save trapped families. The town's police department was under huge pressure. Every officer was helping with rescue operations. Among them was Officer Morgan Parker. Morgan looked like a normal police officer, but he wasn't. He was greedy, very greedy. Money was the only thing that mattered to him. He didn't care if a person was rich or poor. He didn't care if they were alive or dead. If there was something valuable to take, Morgan wanted it. Over the years, he had stolen money from accident scenes. He had taken valuables from victims when nobody was watching. Sometimes, he even robbed the dead. The flood finally began to calm down on the 6th day. The rain became lighter. The water slowly started going down. People came out of their homes and began cleaning the mess left behind by the storm. Police officers stood along the roads, warning people to stay away from dangerous areas. Morgan was helping direct traffic near a flooded street when something caught his eye. A black luxury SUV was parked nearby. A man's hand hung outside the driver's window. Morgan immediately noticed the gold rings. There were rings on every finger. They sparkled even under the gray sky. Morgan couldn't stop staring. Then the driver lowered the window. The man looked exhausted. His clothes were wet. His eyes were tired. It looked like he hadn't slept for days. "Officer," the man said, "I've been stuck here since the storm started. Is there a safe way out of town?" Morgan looked at the man's neck. A thick gold chain rested on his chest. Then he looked back at the rings. His greedy mind instantly began working. "Yeah," Morgan said with a friendly smile. "There's a bridge over the river. Cross that bridge and you'll reach the main highway." The man looked relieved. "Can you show me the way?" he asked. "I'm new here." Morgan smiled. This was exactly what he wanted. "Sure," he replied. A few minutes later, Morgan climbed into the SUV. As the vehicle slowly moved toward the river bridge, Morgan secretly stared at the man's jewelry. The gold chain, the rings, the expensive watch. Everything looked valuable. And with every mile they drove, a dark plan began forming inside his head. By the time they reached the bridge, Morgan had already decided what he was going to do. The river was still dangerous. Even though the rain had slowed down, floodwater rushed beneath the bridge. Dark waves crashed against the concrete supports below. The SUV slowly rolled onto the bridge. Inside the vehicle, the rich man looked completely exhausted. For days, he had been trapped by the flood. Now that he finally had a way out, his body could barely stay awake. Morgan watched him carefully. An evil thought kept growing inside his mind. The gold chain, the rings, the watch, everything could be his. Halfway across the bridge, the man closed his eyes. A few minutes later, he was fast asleep. Morgan glanced at him through the mirror. The man wasn't moving. His breathing was slow and deep. Morgan looked around. The bridge was empty. No cars, no people, no witnesses. Only the sound of rushing water below. A cold smile appeared on Morgan's face. "Perfect," he whispered. He slowly reached for the steering wheel. Then, without warning, he jerked it hard toward the side of the bridge. The SUV smashed through a damaged guardrail. For a split second, the vehicle hung in the air. Then it dropped. The rich man woke up instantly. His eyes widened in terror. "What are you doing?" he screamed. But it was too late. The SUV crashed into the river below. A massive splash exploded across the dark water. The vehicle immediately began sinking. Water poured through the windows. The man desperately tried to escape. He kicked. He punched. He screamed underwater. But panic was taking over. Morgan wasn't worried. He knew how to swim. The moment the SUV hit the water, he forced open a door and escaped. He quickly swam toward the surface. A few seconds later, he reached the riverbank. Breathing heavily, he turned back toward the river. The SUV was disappearing beneath the water. Inside it, the rich man was still fighting for his life. Morgan simply watched. He didn't try to help. He didn't call for help. He just stood there, waiting. Minutes passed. Then everything became still. The SUV vanished into the darkness below. The struggling stopped. The river became silent again. Morgan smiled. The man was dead, and now all that gold belonged to him. About 20 minutes later, Morgan returned to the water. Using a rope he found nearby, he dove down and located the submerged SUV. Inside was the lifeless body of the rich man. Morgan dragged the corpse out of the vehicle and pulled it onto the riverbank. The sun was already setting. Darkness slowly covered the forest around the river. Morgan dragged the dead man behind a group of bushes and sat the body against a large tree. The gold rings still sparkled. The gold chain still hung around his neck. Morgan stared at them greedily. He was completely alone, just him and the dead man. As the night grew darker, Morgan had no idea that something was quietly watching him from the shadows. The night grew colder. A thick fog slowly rolled across the riverbank. The sound of rushing water echoed through the darkness. Morgan sat beneath a tree, staring at the dead man's jewelry. The gold rings, the gold chain, the expensive watch. Every time he looked at them, he smiled. Hours passed. The forest became completely silent. No cars, no voices, not even the sound of animals. It was almost midnight. Morgan finally stood up. "Time to collect my reward," he muttered. He walked toward the corpse. The dead man was still sitting against the tree exactly where Morgan had left him. His head hung low. His eyes were closed. He looked completely lifeless. Morgan knelt beside him. Slowly, he grabbed one of the man's fingers. Then he began pulling off the first gold ring. Suddenly, a strange sound came from somewhere behind him. Snap! Morgan froze. His heart skipped a beat. He quickly turned around. Nothing, only darkness. The trees stood motionless around him. Morgan swallowed nervously. For a few seconds, he listened. Silence. "Probably an animal," he whispered, trying to calm himself down. He turned back toward the corpse. The dead man hadn't moved. His eyes were still closed. Morgan laughed nervously. "You're making me jump over a dead body." He reached for another ring. Then, thud, something hit the ground. Morgan jumped backward in fear. His eyes locked onto the corpse. The dead man's arm had fallen from his lap. Morgan stared at it. His breathing became faster. "No," he whispered. "That didn't happen." The corpse remained motionless. Morgan forced himself to relax. Bodies move sometimes, he told himself. Maybe the arm had simply slipped. Trying to ignore the fear, he stepped closer again. The cold wind blew through the trees. The fog became thicker. Then Morgan noticed something. The dead man's eyelids were moving. Morgan stopped breathing. Slowly, very slowly, the man's eyes began to open. Morgan felt every drop of blood leave his body. The corpse wasn't looking at him. It was staring straight ahead into the darkness. Its pale eyes were wide open, unblinking, empty. The temperature around Morgan seemed to drop instantly. A freezing chill crawled up his spine. The dead man suddenly took a sharp breath. Then his entire body jerked violently. Morgan screamed and fell backward. The corpse began shaking uncontrollably. Its arms twitched. Its legs kicked against the ground. Then suddenly, everything stopped. The body collapsed onto the dirt. Once again, it looked completely dead. Morgan sat frozen in terror. His mind told him to run, but his greed was stronger than his fear. And after several long minutes, he slowly started moving toward the jewelry again. Part 4. Morgan stood there, shaking. Every instinct told him to run. But when he looked at the gold rings, his greed took over again. The corpse was lying motionless on the ground. Its eyes were closed. Its body looked completely lifeless. Morgan took a deep breath. "Get a grip," he whispered to himself. "It's just a dead body." Slowly, he walked closer. The cold night air felt heavier now. The fog had become so thick that he could barely see the river. Morgan knelt beside the corpse. His hands trembled as he reached for one of the gold rings. For a moment, nothing happened. The body didn't move. The forest remained silent. Morgan grabbed the ring and pulled. Suddenly, a hand shot up and grabbed his wrist. Morgan let out a horrifying scream. The corpse's grip was ice cold. It felt like a block of frozen metal. Morgan tried to pull away, but the dead man's fingers tightened around his wrist. Panic exploded inside him. "Let me go," Morgan screamed. He kicked and struggled. Tears filled his eyes. The corpse never looked at him. Its eyes remained closed, yet its hand held him with impossible strength. Then, without warning, the grip disappeared. The hand slowly fell back to the ground. Morgan stumbled backward. His heart hammered inside his chest. He didn't wait another second. He turned and ran. Branches slapped against his face. Mud splashed beneath his boots. He ran faster than he ever had in his life. But no matter how far he ran, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was following him. Morgan finally reached the riverbank. Breathing heavily, he looked behind him. Nothing. No footsteps. No shadow. No corpse. The forest stood silent. For the first time, Morgan felt a little relief. Across the river, he could see distant lights from a small neighborhood. Safety. People. Help. All he had to do was cross the river. Without thinking, Morgan jumped into the water. The current was strong, but he was a good swimmer. Slowly, he pushed through the dark water. The river was freezing cold. Every stroke felt harder than the last. Then something strange happened. Morgan suddenly felt his foot brush against something below him. He stopped swimming. For a second, he floated in silence. The water around him was black, endless, empty. Then, something grabbed his ankle. Morgan screamed. The grip was powerful, far stronger than any human hand, and it was pulling him down, straight into the darkness below. Morgan screamed and kicked wildly. The icy hand around his ankle tightened. The harder he fought, the deeper he was pulled into the river. Water filled his mouth. His lungs burned. Panic took over. Morgan clawed at the water, trying to reach the surface. But whatever was holding him was far too strong. Slowly, he was dragged deeper into the darkness below. The moonlight disappeared. Everything became black. Morgan could barely see anything. Then suddenly, he saw a face. His heart nearly stopped. Floating beneath him in the dark water was the rich man, the same man Morgan had murdered. His eyes were wide open. His pale face drifted through the darkness, and wrapped around Morgan's ankle was the dead man's hand. No, Morgan gasped. This isn't possible. The corpse said nothing. It simply stared at him. A cold smile slowly appeared on its face. Then it began pulling Morgan deeper. Morgan fought with everything he had left, but his strength was fading. Water rushed into his nose, into his mouth, into his lungs. The river felt like a giant hand closing around him. As he sank lower, something appeared behind the corpse. The sunken SUV. It rested silently at the bottom of the river, exactly where the rich man had died. The corpse slowly turned and began dragging Morgan toward it. Morgan's eyes filled with terror. Now he understood. This wasn't an accident. This was revenge. The dead man wanted him to suffer the same death. Morgan tried one final time to break free, but it was useless. His body was exhausted. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was the corpse pulling him toward the dark SUV. Then everything went black. The next morning, rescue teams searched the river after reports of a missing officer. Hours later, they found Morgan's body. The official report said he had drowned while helping flood victims during the disaster. The town called him a hero. The newspapers praised his bravery. No one knew the truth. No one knew about the rich man. No one knew about the murder. And no one knew what really happened in the river that night. But some local fishermen later claimed that on quiet nights, they sometimes saw a man standing near the riverbank. His clothes were soaked. His eyes were pale, and gold rings still covered every finger of his hand, waiting, watching, for the next greedy soul to come looking for treasure. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Phantom Chronicles. More terrifying stories are waiting in the darkness. Turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.